Hello, hello, hello. I am Dr. Vivid, your favorite fun size, pint size, travel size, social media therapist, actual doctor of clinical psychology, and a member of Team Rayceen Productions when it comes to this co host and moderation gig, baby. I am so excited for today's interview. Joining me is Josie Caballero. Josie, are you there?
Yes.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Josie, look at this beautiful background. Get into the love. Get into
Oh,
it all. Oh my gosh, so
uh,
Josie, how are you?
I am doing absolutely wonderful. It's been wild, as you know, as I'll just go ahead and give a little introduction. I am Josie Rose Caballero. I am the director of the U.S. Transgender Survey for the National Center for Transgender Equality. And it is busy right now. We are going to be launching the project on October 19th. So as you know, things can get kind of busy once we're so close to launch. But I am so happy to be here and talk about trans issues, trans rights, and what we can do and all the things that I'm up to.
Yes, and we are now in a space where now more than ever before, trans rights have been given a platform that they have deserved for oh so long. When we talk about bills and rights and access and pure just acknowledgement of a group that is underserved and overlooked. So before we get into that, tell us a little bit more about you, who you are, the Josie experience.
Ah, So, actually, I always joke. I'm like, I have such a Khaleesi title. I don't know if your fan base knows Game of Thrones at all, but when Daenerys Targaryen comes out and they give the Mother of Dragons, Breaker of Chains, like I feel like I have a title like that when I talk about all the things that I'm a part of. So let me go ahead and lay it on you. So not only am I the director of the U.S. Trans Survey and Special Projects for the National Center for Transgender Equality, I'm also a board member of the Trans American Veteran Association. I am a committee member of the Lived Experience Committee for the Suicide Prevention Resource Center. I'm a founding member of the Trans Advisory Committee for the Democratic National Committee. And I am also, as you can see, a recent awardee of the Women Who Inspire for Bethesda Magazine, which is the larger publications for Montgomery County in the Maryland area. So just a few of the things that I'm up to, and I also, for fun, also do Twitch as a hobby, where you can see me talk about pretty much anything under the sun, political and trans rights. At Twitch, you can find me at Josie Rose C, like the letter C. So there's a lot of things going on, and there's a lot of things that I am very honored to be able to put my voice and be in the space to actually start moving things. Like, for example, in the DNC Trans Advisory Committee, I actually get to talk about messaging, right? And actually say, hey, look, why aren't Democratic candidates talking about trans rights? And we're just letting the Republicans continue to talk about trans rights as a negative way, saying that we're groomers, saying that we're hurting children. Where are the Democrats in their messaging? And I'm excited to say that they heard me. and we're actually going to start seeing some new messaging come out from the Democratic establishment saying, hey, this is important for the well-being of society. Trans rights are human rights. Trans rights, if you give people trans rights, then you will ultimately be giving rights to everybody, right? One of the things that I always like to say is when you take rights away from trans people, you're actually taking rights from more cis people than you actually think. Right.
Mhm.
So a really easy example is when they pass gender bathroom bills, for example, and where they say, okay, you have to be assigned a certain sex at birth to use the bathroom. It actually affects more cis women who present more butch, that they're the ones that are getting policed out of bathrooms. And it's not even affecting trans women as much as it is actually cis women. And that's one of the things that's really important when we think about trans rights, is that if you give people trans rights, then you're also giving yourself rights as well, instead of just, we're not in a vacuum, right? Nothing in society is in a vacuum.
No, No, and I'm so glad as a clinician, I'm so glad that you bringing that issue to light. As when a lot of people were anti these gender neutral bathrooms, you saw a lot of masculine presenting cisgender women getting harassed, getting assaulted, getting questioned. And what it does is give light to more assault, give life to more discrimination. And it's not like you're saying, you're not targeting the group that you think you are. You're in fact affecting a whole population of people by presenting more issues in terms of social political issues or just pure self-care issue. Going to the bathroom is a self-care necessity.
Yeah, absolutely it is, and it just goes down the line, right? For example, another thing that Republicans are pushing, and this is not just the trans issue, but abortion issues as well, is trying to make prescriptions stricter as far as on label usage, rather than actually saying, hey, like, doctors can prescribe medicines that are helpful for conditions, even if the pharmaceutical doesn't say that's what the condition is for. So, right. For example, rheumatoid arthritis is one of those big items that if you were to restrict that medicine because of abortion access to only people with rheumatoid arthritis, then you're also restricting access to people who need those drugs. And so it's like there's such a rebound effect. So when you pass stricter ID laws, well, guess who's going to be affected by that? Not only trans people, but people who have to change their names in general. Anybody who wants to have a hyphenated name, anybody that needs to do any of those things, those are just another thing that can affect our access to just everyday things just because people want to be hateful. And one of the biggest impacts I think that people don't realize, and since you understand this, is in the social worker realm. So in the state of Texas, they passed a recommendation that if a parent is taking care of a trans child on medication or not, just social transitioning, then they can have the right to report that family for Child Protective Services to come and investigate that family. But
Mm-hmm.
what we're seeing is that social workers in Texas are saying, I quit, I'm moving the state. So what are you doing but actually taking away the social workers that are actually supposed to be taking care of children that are in abusive situations because of the hatred of trans people? So I always find it kind of odd when conservatives will say, oh, we're protecting children, when actually with bills like or not bills, but the recommendations in Texas with Child Protective Services and the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, they're seeing the same thing with teachers leaving the state. You're actually affecting every child's ability to have protection and quality education. And that's only 2 states, right, that we're talking about. And we're not even talking about the other states that are also affected by this legislation of people leaving the state that are a family that's mostly cis has a trans kid. They're going to leave the state if they don't feel like they're going to be in trouble. And that takes away the economic growth and community support inside of those states as well. So, again, it goes back to it's not in a vacuum, right? Everything that we pass that tries to marginalize another human is always going to have a rebound effect on the people who it was never intended to affect in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Well, not we, but in general, we tend to forget that we are all a community. And when one set of community members is affected, that domino effects into other community members. When we talk specifically about what's going on in Texas and Florida and the Child Protective Services issues, which I think are crazy ridiculous. There's also the adverse mental health impact of children who are not going to present or talk to their teachers or their parents or their guidance counselors who are mandated reporters about certain things. So what you're doing is creating more mental health related issues, more agony. And we know in the trans community, when we talk about our babies, our adolescents and teens, we have a higher rate of suicidality in that group. So what we're doing is causing a bigger health issue while we're targeting specific groups with hate. And absolutely. I'm so thankful for people like you who are using their platform and using their power. And in essence, some of us in this pocket of community have a little bit of privilege and we're using it the right way. And speaking of this privilege, I want to talk about specifically why the US Trans Survey launch is so important to the community.
Absolutely. So first, I'm going to give you a little history lesson, because I like to talk about where USTS comes from, which is the U.S. Transgender Survey. So the U.S. Transgender Survey actually started in 2008 and it was called the National Trans Discrimination Survey. And we had about 8,000 people take that survey, and it was groundbreaking back then. And what happened is people were like, we need more survey data like this. So that became the prerogative of the National Center for Transgender Equality to push out the US Transgender Survey. Nothing against the NTDS, but the National Trans Discrimination Survey sounds like you have to be discriminated against to be able to take the survey, which is not the case. We want to hear the voices and stories of all trans individuals, no matter how they show up, non-binary or even closeted, right? We want to make sure that their voices and stories are heard on the survey. So in 2015 was the groundbreaking giant survey that most people cite in on the studies, like you were talking about, the ideation number, where it's nearly 41% of trans folks attempt suicide before at some point in their lives, which was such a heartbreaking, groundbreaking number that we were able to say, well, we kind of knew it was a problem, but oh my goodness, this is a systemic issue that is, like you said, harming our trans siblings in the world in a way that you can't get back, right? You can't get somebody's life back, right? That is something that is lost, something that is precious, something that is priceless, that is gone forever. So what we were able to glean off of the 2015 survey from the 28,000 respondents who took the 2015 survey, which is essentially nobody thought we could get. Nobody even thought that many trans people even existed back in 2015, regardless, getting them to take a survey and share their stories in that quantitative way. And we were able to glean so much information from that, such as, about 1/3 of people that didn't show their IDs that matched their presentation were either verbally harassed, refused services, or worse, like 2% they were assaulted for showing this type of stuff. And then when you were able to see that 25% of people are afraid to go to the doctor because they're afraid of discrimination, because 1/3 of the people who do go to the doctor experience some form of discrimination, or they have to go in and teach their doctor what to say, what to do, because they have no idea how to even treat ourselves. They don't know how to treat us as trans folks. And we were able to really see for the first time quantitative data on things like TSAs, like I was talking about, bathroom access, finding out how many people came out in school, to people who experienced prison incarceration and seeing what they had to experience going in, veterans, people active in the military, people in faith communities, people with experience of conversion therapy. And those numbers are still used today in massive amount of research projects and studies across the United States, as well as one of the biggest surveys that educate lawmakers, educators, also funders who want to who want to give money to organizations that actually solve the issues that need to be solved with the data that we're looking at the U.S. Trans Survey. So why is 2022 so important? Well, as you know, we've kind of had a revolution of trans identities over the last few years. And what we do know is that there's a lot more of us, trans folks, than anybody expected, which is absolutely wonderful. And that we have an opportunity, because of the success of the US Trans Survey back in 2015, that people are really jazzed up to go ahead and take this long survey. It's not long, well, it is, because it's a trans census in a sense, right? Where people are able to share their stories, because there is no other data set that exists that actually records and catalogs on a comparative timeline from every time we run this survey. There isn't any. So the National Institute of Health records the U.S. transgender as a survey of record for social outcomes for trans individuals that live and reside in the United States. So when I talk about the importance of the survey, it really is one of the few large quantitative surveys that have a random sampling of every single pocket of the United States, because we've got people from every U.S. territory in this that have already pledged, which is the good news. We have about less than, just a little less, I just checked this morning, a little less than 31,000 pledgers that have promised to take the survey when it comes out October 19th.
Yes, that's amazing.
It's huge, right? Because we're already shattering the record of respondents from last time in just people who have promised to take it when it comes out. And I have been told by many people, it's like, I would have taken the pledge, but I have to put my name and email. Can I take it without that? I'm like, absolutely. Just make sure you stay tuned. And we even have more people. So we could see it's anywhere between 65 to maybe even 100,000 trans individuals actually take this survey and tell us these stories. I mean, the wealth of information we're going to be able to glean off of that data is going to really, in a sense, kind of educate everybody in every state, in every corner, what is going on. And we don't just do one report, right? We do multiple breakout reports. So we're going to do a report for every state. We're going to do a report for every demographic breakdown. We're going to do a report on people who are living with who are living with HIV or AIDS. We are going to be doing a report for 45 plus. We're going to be doing a report for 65 plus. We're going to be doing a report for 16 to 17-year-olds, because we actually dropped the survey from 18 to 16. And we're also doing I feel like a rural report. I knew I was missing one. A report for rural communities as well, so we can actually have a comparative sample between cities and rural areas, and especially going and comparing them to state to state. So when I say the U.S. Trans Survey is super, super important, it is. If you are a trans person, non-binary person, gender non-conforming, or think you might be, please take the U.S. Trans Survey at ustranssurvey.org. On October 19th. And if you want to pledge so you can make sure you're the first in line to get the link, make sure you do that at the same site. You will be a part of history. Your story will be cataloged anonymously without your name, to give to the grander tapestry of what it is to be trans. Because, you know, I get really excited about like kind of the imagery of that, of every strand, every thread of human going and giving that data to the greater cause, to our community, to create that beautiful tapestry that I know our trans community is. Because the thing that's important about the survey above everything else, it's a survey for trans people by trans people that is community led.
Did you feel my spirit just like elevate?
I did.
I just can't. Like, the enormity of this having a for us by us, because when we talk about numbers, and I really, really implore people to register so that information can be captured. Do it. And you can do it on terms of anonymity. It's beautiful. It's a safe place. It's,
Absolutely.
you know, because like you said, that's one of the biggest issues in the boundaries. And also to see you actively collecting data that is not trauma-focused data from this demographic, which is something that a lot of people, especially the trans community, are not strangers to. Having it only be focused on things like, for instance, the latest numbers for like monkeypox or HIV/AIDS or sexual assault, those things. We're just trying to say, no, we're not focusing on your trauma. We're focusing on every part of you and how we can provide resources. You're doing the good work, Josie.
Yeah, and let me tell you about that trauma piece, right? Or about the joy piece, right? Because I made sure, as we were getting inputs from hundreds of scientists, researchers, community activists across this country, one of the biggest things that we got were, where are our resiliency factors? Where is that? And you know what? We added them. We are going to be asking people on this survey, is your life materially better since you're come out of as a trans person? That question is not asked. It is always about pain, trauma, and how bad is it to be trans? And we're not asking how bad is it to be trans. We're asking you, how great is it to be trans? And that is something that is a number that we all need. We need that as a community. We need that in the medical community. We need that across the country to let people know, do you not care about kids thriving? Because we have evidence to show that they can. We have evidence that trans people not only have a drop in ideation, but they actually have better social outcomes than cis people when it comes to ideation. Those are the numbers that we can show, rather than saying, oh, if we withhold these things, this is the pain that will ensue. No, we need to show this is the things we receive when we get the love and care and acceptance in the community that I know a lot of people want to give trans people. And this is the hard data. This is the hard science, right? That is going to allow us to have these numbers. Another thing that I'm excited about as well, we're asking reproductive access. Nobody asked trans people about their access to reproductive care. Nobody asked a trans person if they need birth control. Nobody asked, fertility, like a doctor saying, hey, can we find insurance to cover your fertility treatments? We're getting that data. We're making sure that we have people and information that are able to share their stories about how they came about with their family. Did they adopt? If they did, how hard was it? Was it a struggle? Was it something you tried to do and had to walk away because of your trans identity? These are just a small snippet of the things. And also like COVID, right? Like we're asking questions, did you get your vaccines? If you didn't get your vaccines, why, right? Are you planning on getting more, right? Those are the things that, our community has been completely ignored on. And no more. Like that's why it's so important to take this survey. I can talk about the data and all the things we're adding all day. So if you have any more questions on that, I can.
I'm so excited. We're going to include the links to the survey in the description for our video when it's up. And you are definitely a woman who inspires. You see, I know we all see this beautiful plaque behind Josie. The work that you're doing is more than inspirational because it's intentional. And as we're wrapping up, I want to talk a little bit about the love that you're bringing outside of the good fight. Tell me a little bit about Love Nest on Twitch.
Yeah. So the Love Nest on Twitch is the name of my little stream that I do. And it started off as kind of like, oh, it's something fun that I want to do, kind of just like create a little community. And I'll tell you, when I first started the Love Nest, I started when I was at about 1 year exactly at my medical transition mark. And it was really there for me to kind of like practice myself, right? And it's kind of weird to say that, practice myself, right? Because I'm a late transitioner. I transitioned at like 34 years old. And so for me, I lived 10 years as a public figure, like running for office. I had a political consulting firm, and I was a big community organizer out in the public in San Diego. And I had a personality and a way of holding myself, but it wasn't authentic to who I was back then. So what I had to do was I had to find myself. And what I thought was a great opportunity was using streaming as an opportunity to perform, be myself, be the Josie that I am, to kind of like understand how I speak, how I get serious, how I communicate, how do I argue, all of the things that happen is like with the camera on me. So it's like that microscope that I need to be like on point. And then it turned into this wonderful little community as well. I'm happy to say we have nearly 300 people a part of our Discord community at so discord.gg/lovenest, and it's mostly trans folks. And we have so many little channels and little conversations between the trans mass communities, trans femme community, non-binary communities, and it is just a warm, safe place, right? And we have moderators that go in and knock out bad actors because it's the internet and people are out for trans people all the time. So we are very strong with the moderation team. And what I was able to do is cultivate this community where people feel safe, and then use this as not only my own safe place and having a great community. I call my little birds. I love my little birds. They're amazing humans, and we just vibe, right? We just talk about issues. We talk about, you know, different trans things. We talk about election stuff. I've done panels, many panels on all host of different issues. And I will say that one of the biggest things I think is when I talk to other trans folks that reach out to me and DM me, like, I'm so glad you've done this because your visibility matters, right? And it really does warm my heart where people are saying, Josie, you inspired me to come out. Or Josie, your community allows me to know that I can be thriving as a trans person and continue to share my truth amongst all of the hatred that exists online. Because don't get me wrong, I get hate rated. I have a lot of people coming in with malice and mean intentions, but I roll with the punches. Our community moderation team is strong, and we knock out those bad actors as fast as they come in, and people are like, wow, I can do this too. I can live my truth. And if I can help one individual do that, then that platform has done more than I ever hoped it could do. And that's why I do it.
It's amazing. So you've given us so much hope for the work that you're doing. Thank you for all of it, from not just, you know, the work that you do as a director of U.S. Trans Survey and Special Projects, but what you do for you and people who see themselves in you. So before we go, tell the viewers how they can learn more and keep up with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can first, I'm going to always plug the Trans Survey. So go to ustranssurvey.org first and foremost. And if you like some spicy commentary from time to time, follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Go Josie Rose C, a Twitter, and then you can also follow me, of course, on Twitch at Josie Rose C, where we have a fun time. It's a lot cozier. Don't worry, it's not just lecture Josie. It's just Mother Josie just saying, "Hey, you need to do these things." No, we have fun. We vibe. We play video games. We do whatever. It's a place where we're supposed to unwind, right? Because I work so hard in the work that I do that I like to play hard too. And I feel like the stream is playing really hard. And I invite you all to come and join the Love Nest, be a part of it. But really make sure you take the US Trans Survey.
Take the survey, and we're going to be including the link in this episode's description. So thank you so much, Josie Caballero, for coming on and talking with us today. You guys, I really need you to make sure that you go and register so that we can definitely get your voices heard. And to those watching, please follow Team Rayceen on social media and subscribe to the Team Rayceen YouTube channel. Most of all, thank you for watching. Bye, Josie. Bye, everyone.